Welcome back to the Untold, where we share the story of some amazing people. And Ahmed,
Today we have a very interesting topic. We both love language acquisition. We love talking about languages, and we have an English teacher, a cultural researcher,
researcher, which
right?
is quite interesting.
And he does many things, and he
He's
is
quite young.
spreading. He's quite young. A lot of great knowledge that he acquired from his parents and through his own research and studying, and as well his social media work, where he's basically spreading awareness.
And he's very optimistic.
Yes.
And enough introducing him.
Yeah.
Let's meet him right after the break.
We're back on the Untold and being joined by our very special guest, Nawaf Al-Mahdi. Welcome on the Untold.
Welcome.
Thank you,
Noah.
guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome on.
So,
Yeah.
tell us a bit about yourself. You have a very interesting resume. Besides being an English teacher, there's more to it. Tell us about yourself.
Of course. So my name is Nawaf. I'm 27 years old. I enjoy teaching as my primary profession. When I'm not busy teaching, I enjoy reading books, studying cultures, traveling, cooking, and taking care of my cats at home.
Oh, nice.
Cats.
You have cats.
Yeah.
I like it. You have cats.
Yeah,
as
we
well.
all have
I
cats,
have a
I
cat.
guess.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So
It's-
everyone
it's,
here on the table, they have cats. Perfect.
It's perfect. Let's start from the beginning then. What got you into this field? Why you wanted to become an English teacher, and maybe what you've studied before?
Of course.
Yeah.
Now, here's the funny point. Keep in mind that I wanted to be a doctor as a kid. Okay.
That's a big shift, my friend.
I
It
know.
is, it is.
Now, here's the thing. I
Yeah.
did not realize that I hated blood until one time.
Oh.
Let me tell you how it all started,
Right.
okay? So I got more into language in depth because I would sneak into my attic, okay? And I would read my mom's medical textbooks when she finished studying many years ago. And she just kept them, for memories.
Medical test.
Medical
Medical
textbooks.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm very much into studying English for specific purposes. And
Okay.
medical English was my favorite, to be honest.
That's
The
quite
vocabs
interesting.
that you had
but-
to read.
Yeah.
like,
But that was until I opened the OBGYN textbook, which is the
Okay.
obstetrician and gynecology book, with the studying of human biology, but more to the fairer sex, which is women. Because I read everything from ophthalmology, the study of the science of eyes, and OBGYN. But when I opened the OBGYN book, this is where I knew, Nawaf, you're not going to be a doctor, okay? Because studying surgery, and I found this other book about human surgery, general surgery. It's like, halas, that's it.
you couldn't handle the blood, like,
Yeah.
or the.
But what
Okay.
got me to the field, to answer your question,
Yes.
what really got me into the field was my dad and my cousin. So my cousin is an ELT supervisor at the Ministry of Education,
ELT.
meaning English language teaching.
Okay.
Yeah. And she sat down with me one time. She was tutoring me in English, more into writing. And she told me, Nawaf, you're really smart with language. Have you thought about teaching? And I told her, no, I thought it was a bit weird because I don't want to deal with kids and it feels kind of strange. And then she said, I promise you, you're going to be saying the opposite of that. And it did happen that one time is that when I was in the 11th grade, it was English exam, okay? And I had classmates who were really bad in the language. But since they saw me I was good at it, I simply explained the concepts of grammar and vocabulary. And thankfully, they got like the bare minimum.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just remembered my cousin Sarah is the one who taught me about teaching. It's like, okay, she was right.
I can do this.
Yeah,
right?
I can
you
do
can
this.
do this.
I
Okay.
thought about giving it a shot.
Okay. So you pursued what degree specifically?
English language and literature with a
Okay.
minor in communications and media.
Nice. And where did you study?
The American University of Kuwait, my
Nice.
alma mater.
All right. That's cool.
All right.
But how did we go from English literature to all your cultural stuff that you do and the research that you do and your social media awareness stuff that you do? How did that
Happen.
transition?
Number one being my cousin Sarah, who's the supervisor, and the second person I would definitely say is, okay. Her name is Jo Kakonga. So she's a teacher trainer from the University of Cambridge and has worked with them. And she's a Celta and Delta assessor and has her own YouTube channel to teach. And I've even fell more in love with language And the two other people are one of them was my advisor during university, Dr. Inas Mahfoud. Her PhD was in computational linguistics. And when I took my first class with her was in cultural linguistics. I immediately fell in love with the subject and her teaching methods, to be honest. And I continued taking more electives with her in the field of linguistics.
Nice.
My second professor was Dr. Angelica DeAngelis. Her specialization was comparative literature as her PhD. And she told us more about her travels to Morocco, where she did her studies of comparative literature, and most specifically in Moroccan novels, and comparing them with French and English translations versions of those. And she told me how she even studied in different countries and traveled extensively into Europe, and how it related into teaching both language and literature.
Wow.
Quite interesting. So after that, what happened? You decided to open a social media account?
Oh yeah, to answer that question. Now, I found a lot of English teachers being more exposed into social media, and because we're living in the age of speed and the age of social media, people don't have time to open textbooks. I understand that, but I found that opening a social media could be a much easier resource for people who cannot afford to go to school in general, or just want to learn the language at home.
True. So what makes people fall in love with, a language specifically?
Okay, so I think the reason people may fall in love with a language is due to how it's being exposed. Let me give you an example. Hadeel, did you have a teacher who you were so much interested to study more with during your high school years?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, who was that?
It was my English teacher.
Okay, can you tell me why, from your experience, why did you like the subject?
Why did I like it? Because it was fun. I don't know. It just felt fun.
Okay.
But it was, I don't know, English and where I don't know if it's my school or maybe, but it was always fun. There was always like a song to sing. There was always something to do, activities. In my school, it was
It's an interesting school you went to.
Yeah. I mean, it's from elementary all the way to high school. English
was a fun class.
Was a fun class. We used to sing songs. We used to do games. We used to do things, and we even did high school plays for Shakespeare
in English.
Yeah.
Nice. Shakespeare.
Shakespeare.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Sorry, I missed.
What about you, Ahmed?
At school, it's still, I would say, English classes. It's just because it came naturally to me, and it felt easy. I don't need to study at all.
I didn't have to study either because it was fun. We literally sang songs. So I liked my...
Did you go through the normal public schools of Kuwait?
Yes, I did.
Different experiences here. Different experiences.
And my teacher was actually in high school. She was Indian, so she was so nice. And when we did,
I didn't know we had Indian teachers in public
plays,
schools. That's cool.
Yeah, she would let us do it in front of other teachers,
Nice.
English teachers.
Yeah.
It was more of an inside school thing.
Okay.
But it was the kind of activities she would put for students, and she would give us like the plays, and we had to read them, memorize them over and over again, and then we did them. It was just for fun, and no money was given, obviously. And the costumes were really cheap, but it was fun. It was fun.
You work with what you have.
Yeah.
For yourself, it is not a native tongue language that you have, but you have this affection for it. Why English? Why this huge affection for the language?
Right. So from a very young age, like I said, I was exposed to Western media.
Right.
Yeah, and my parents in general are extremely educated, and because my dad studied in the United States during his undergraduate years, he decided like I should spread the same knowledge to my children.
Nice.
He did it effectively.
Yeah.
And my mom being a medical doctor, it's a profession that requires extremely strong second language skills, such as English, and English is being the most common, of course.
Yeah.
But for me, I think the reason why I love the language is because when I was really young, I had speaking problems in Arabic. Yeah, I wasn't exactly a strong speaker. I had speech problems. And I found that the Arabic language from a very young age was really difficult. And the other part had to do a little bit with bullying when I was in school.
Oh.
Yeah, when you stutter a lot,
Yeah.
kids will do like...
Kids are mean.
I wasn't exactly a stutterer, but more of a late response person. Okay, let me illustrate it. When you bring the internet from the 90s and you call someone while the internet is running, what's the sound that comes with it?
Yeah.
That was my brain when speaking Arabic. And English was much easier for me to digest and produce more naturally.
And you were in public school systems as well.
I was in private school system from grade 1 to grade 5.
That explains a lot.
That's the switch right there.
So now let's talk about the passion that you have for, English, for the things you do on social media, cultural research. Where does that passion come from, and what are you planning to do with it in the future?
All right. So the reason why I enjoyed studying English and I have a passion for it mostly stems from my dad, to be honest with you. When I was really young, my father used to collect and buy a lot of old books when he was studying in the United States. And whenever we travel, we just buy a lot of books. He even had a very interesting bookshelf. And he would sometimes hide taboo books, like in the attic. Mostly
interesting.
Mostly like novels that are considered not so appropriate for children, in a sense. Okay. And my passion for teaching mostly stemmed from observing the way my father teaches me. He's very visual, and the way he uses educational technology while he would teach me subjects, it did make me more inspired to teach it, honestly. The other part has to do with my both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation in teaching, meaning that my internal motivation has to do with my enjoyment of helping others. The extrinsic one is that I don't like seeing people who struggle with something and get made fun of. I've been in the shoes of a bullied person,
right?
So I have to break that barrier, in a sense.
That's actually quite remarkable.
But when it comes to cultural part, we travel a lot, and part of the books that I've read that my father would provide me, I would see it in person, and that is a gigantic privilege for someone like me, because there are plenty of teachers who do read a lot about cultures, but they don't exactly have the funds or the resources that would enable them to go outside of their country. So I'm very privileged and happy to know that I've experienced traveling many countries and seeing the facts that I read are true in public and in person.
I do want to get into creative writing as well with you, but after we take this break.
So we're back again with our guest, and before going to break, Ahmed, you had a question for the guest.
So I recall you mentioned creative writing is one of the few things, or one of the many things that you do. So let's dive into it. What part of creative writing that you do, what style, and what do you do?
I primarily enjoy writing murder mysteries, like Agatha Christie-based stories.
Wow. That's amazing.
It is.
Did you watch Knives Out?
Knives Out?
Yeah.
I never heard of it.
It's a movie.
Really?
It's a movie. Like everyone I've seen.
Wow, you don't know.
Wait, when was it out?
Knives Out has two parts.
Okay.
The first one years
it's basically
ago,
about
investigation. It's
investigation.
Daniel Craig.
Oh, okay.
It's murder mystery.
Okay.
He's a private investigator, and there's two parts. Check them out.
I've seen it also another movie with Adam Sandler and
yes, they have another one.
It was amazing.
It's a murder mystery
it's a
movie.
more of a funny situation murder.
It's
but
Sandler
it's
and Jennifer Aniston, no?
Yeah. Totally
so other than murder mysteries, I enjoy horror and thriller literature in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
The writing formats, you're writing short stories, novel writing style, screenplays. What are you writing?
I'm more of a flash fiction person. So yeah, the term flash fiction comes from the United States. It's kind of like short stories, but they go into two to three pages maximum.
Interesting. Okay, that's very short, actually.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now keep in mind the reason why I enjoy flash fiction has to do with my ADHD and ADD brain. Okay. I try.
We're gonna then dive into ADHD since
we're not
all
gonna
three
do
of
that.
us.
Go
ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I found flash fiction to be a giant part of my childhood because it's straightforward to the point, but it just keeps you questioning events that could have been mentioned or might not have been mentioned in the story. So, for example, I enjoy Stephen King's novels and Edgar Allan Poe's stories. But one story that resonated with me from Edgar Allan Poe has to be The Raven and The Beating Heart. I forgot the name, but it has to do story with Edgar Allan Poe's The Beating Heart. Oh yeah, it has to be the Beating Heart. So just to recap quickly, it's a story about a person who's going mad because he's hearing knocking on the sounds, but it turns out it has to be under the wooden floor, and there was someone's live heart under there.
Interesting.
Live heart.
Yeah.
Live heart.
A live beating heart still.
Like,
Okay.
but why is it alive?
That's the
So
question
many
that still rings
questions.
to my head in my head to this day. But the reason why I enjoy Stephen King's writing it has to do with because he was an English teacher, a high school English teacher back in the 80s, before he continued with writing flash fiction, then slowly into best-selling novels.
What are some of your favorite Stephen King works?
Has to be The Shining, Carrie,
Shining.
yeah,
Yeah, the classics.
the classics one, yeah. But
I love it a lot. I don't know. I love it a lot.
Yeah, it has to be the most terrifying novels I've ever
It
read.
is. I've seen the movie. I haven't read it.
I've seen the movies
both
too.
movies. Like,
It
was scary.
Something.
It was scary.
It's I'm not a fan of horror because I feel like it's repetitive and the plot lines need to improve or the storytelling needs to improve. It needs to advance.
Yeah.
But with it, I enjoyed it.
Let me tell you why it was the most successful films to be presented from 2018 and 2020. Now, Stephen King also took, he took inspirations from older writers, not other than Edgar Allan Poe. It has to be H.P. Lovecraft. Now, H.P. Lovecraft has a major influence in my writing because he introduced a subgenre that is very much underrated in literature and film called cosmic horror. Have you ever heard of it?
Cosmic horror.
Cosmic horror.
Okay.
Interesting.
Explain that.
Okay, so cosmic horror is basically integrating space into horror. Now, have you seen the film Alien?
Yeah.
Of course. I mean,
Okay.
who hasn't, right?
Yeah. So many scientists, in NASA, they've brought this theory that are we truly alone in the universe? If you think about that question, it's a very scary question because we could be truly alone, or there could be extremely dangerous civilizations that are billions of years ahead of time, who could see us through a telescope, and they might murder us one day. That's cosmic horror.
Cosmic horror. Okay.
I mean,
That's a good
okay.
explanation.
I mean,
Do you think we're alone in the universe?
I don't think we are, honestly, but I don't think there's aliens. I mean, I've seen some, research about bringing some bacteria from space or whatever. So basically means there
are living
being creatures out there,
Right.
Yeah.
but not humans, obviously, and not at the same, levels as humans. I'm not sure if there's more. I mean, this universe is
We
huge.
never know, you never know.
But I hope they don't find out while I'm still alive.
But here's Hadeel, about not finding out. Okay, so if you guys really want to go through an existential crisis by H.P. Lovecraft, the novel Call of Cthulhu.
Well, you want me to have a crisis watching something?
No. Here's the funny part. There are a lot of creative animators who were able to animate the novel itself.
Wow.
Because, so most of the monsters in H.P. Lovecraft stories are aliens. They're ancient aliens that used to hide on Earth. And many civilizations used to worship them. I mean, it's fiction. But the thing about these aliens, they're not regular everyday aliens. They're the type of aliens that if you see them in person, that you might actually go crazy. You literally would lose your mind because of how incomprehensible and gigantic they are.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is an actual phobia it's called thalassophobia.
There's a phobia for everything.
How about we stop talking about phobias because I'm getting really
Okay.
paranoid here. I don't want to get paranoid later.
Okay.
So let's go back to teaching English.
Teaching.
Yeah, of course.
And I want to ask you about how do you, simplify the complicities while teaching English, especially in Kuwait for, students here.
Yeah, so I'm very much against systematic teaching methods. A lot of applied linguists from the University of Cambridge do agree that when you expose language, it has to be authentic. How do we define something as authentic? Now, if you take someone and throw them into a foreign country, they will be observing how the way people speak the language based on many factors. But to answer your question, you have to be visual. You have to adapt to what the learner wants. Okay? Now, like Hadeel and I, we're both visual people. So if you present, for example, a word, there has to be an image for it, like a signifier.
I'll have to imagine something that's related to that word, even if it means nothing. But just I have to connect it to something, or else I'll forget. Like how I'm bad with names. I'm good with faces, bad with names. Like it's one of the things.
Yeah. So this is why language is always fluid. When we say it's fluid, it does not follow one stable line. It has a certain shift to it. Now, in the English grammar, let me simplify it for you for an example. Now, what do we call this in English?
Cup.
Yeah.
A mug.
Now, cup is a noun. That means something you drink from, okay? But if I use it in a verb, can you cup my face? What does that mean?
Cover your face? Cup your face?
Cupping your face.
Cupping your
like
face.
hugging my face.
Yeah, cupping someone's face is when you put both your
Right,
hands
right,
under
right,
someone's
okay.
cheeks.
Okay.
You do it when you want to encourage someone or show them affection and love to them.
Right.
I do that to my cat. Does that count?
Yeah,
Does that
so
count?
Cupping my cat.
yeah,
every
we
day.
all do that with cats. Yeah, that's how you explain grammar and nouns, like grammars and vocabulary in a sense. But another way of simplifying the complexity of language has to do with role playing. Now, do you guys remember both in Arabic and English classes where you have to role play a specific dialogue?
I mean, not in
They
Arabic.
did
we
not
never
do
did
that in public schools, my friend.
No, we did that in my school. Like, was in English, obviously.
Okay.
They used to give us like different lines, and we have to, pretend. It's sort of like
Turned into an
teachers-
acting class.
Not acting, but it's
Okay.
more of a learn how to speak. Into class. So
Okay.
from the textbook, you would stand
Right,
up.
right,
Two
right.
girls would
Oh, you're
stand
just
up
reading the passage.
and you read
But
like
I think you're
Ahmed,
talking about
what do
something
you think
else.
of this apple? And the other girl's like,
okay.
oh, I think it's like a teaching method, but we never did that in Arabic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Unless
yeah.
if we read poems, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Arabic can have the same pattern in teaching English, but I think Arabic is a lot more complex to digest. But when you teach a foreign language, it also has to do with role playing. Like, okay, if you want to teach grammar, focus on how it's being said first before the written form.
Right.
Because if you teach, for example, the past simple, which is it's talking about a recent event in the past. For example, I walked yesterday. It's about yesterday. But if you talk about, for example, the future tenses or the perfect tenses, I've noticed that the perfect tenses are kind of difficult to digest when it comes to Arabic speakers. Because if you say, for example, I've been there 3 times, does that mean we're still going there? Yes, we're still going there.
But
we
been
don't
there.
know but we don't know when that time pattern started.
Mm.
You know, that's the thing about teaching grammar. Yeah.
I never understood grammar.
you know-
Did you? I just.
I think with English we learned it by understanding.
How it works.
You know how
And-
it
and
just
eventually,
clicks. It just clicks.
yeah, you would just go to to take your test, and you would just do whatever that comes into your brain, and somehow we always like pass and get full grades. So
it's an issue for native speakers even in the States.
it is an
You
issue
know,
for
because
everyone.
it's something you just naturally acquire.
And I don't think the
and you don't
grammar
think of
here
it.
is in English is as like teaching it as hard as it like in in the States or other countries, because I'm pretty sure they teach them more deep
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
words
sure.
and
Yeah,
grammars and
because-
vocabs, and we're talking about
Yeah, so if you look, for example, the K-12 system, that's the academic name for from kindergarten till grade 12 in the U.S. Yes, they put emphasis on grammar, but what makes them special is that they have something known as AP classes,
Right.
meaning advanced placement.
Advanced placement.
If they see, for example, a student who excels in language, they would put them, for example, AP English, which focuses, for example, on rhetoric, اللي هو البلاغة والنقد. Okay, it's like how does language work when we use metaphors, euphemisms, and structures of language, and that can be applied for different other subjects, but into different specialties. But I think the reason why, in the Gulf in general, but in Kuwait, people don't really like studying English, has to do with the rigid and systemic way of presenting language, which makes it boring. And I've noticed a lot of the English teachers that I've encountered when I go to the British Council, they're very cultured because they've traveled a lot and they know how different nationalities responded to language. So for example, if you take the Arabic language, we love exaggerating and emphasizing something. For example, I've eaten the person eating. If we قلناها بالعربي أكلت هذا الشخص أكلا.
Oh yeah.
You don't find that in English.
You don't find that because Arabic is I think, in my opinion, it is the most difficult language.
It is, yes.
And it has more grammar, more, to understand, and especially it is the language of Quran. So basically, it requires, even us as native speakers, we would read Quran, there's words we would understand, the way it's formed, it's hard to explain. And it's one of my favorite things about Arabic, but I've never gotten introduced to Arabic the proper way as much as I have been to English.
I agree. To be fair, the one of the reasons why I enjoy also learning Arabic, and I'm still trying to relearn it again as an adult, has to do with Space Tune.
Space
Space
Tune? Like,
Tune.
Yeah,
isn't that
Space
what we
Tune.
used to watch as kids?
Let me explain.
Some people.
Yeah, Space Tune would have these intermission between shows, and sometimes like these intermissions where they present the alphabet in a song
Yeah,
way.
Shingle wa Mingle.
Yeah, like Shingle and Mingle, and say they would Alif and Ba Anta.
Yeah.
Because children primarily they respond to language through songs and repeated patterns of the language.
Precisely.
That's true.
Yeah,
True.
you can do that with adults, but there's a strategy known as mnemonics.
Mnemonics.
Yeah. So mnemonics is when you, like, for example, have a long rule and you want to simplify it by using it through letters. Yeah. So, for example, when we use prepositions in English, اللي هو like transition words, they call them fanboys, which is for, and, neither, but.
They call
or,
them fanboys.
Yeah.
That's in English.
Yes. It's an acronym for a set of prepositions.
Yeah.
That's a mnemonic.
I think we have something similar in Arabic. I don't know what it is, but like it's something. I'll remember
While
it
you
later.
think about that, let's discuss. Since you've been doing this for how long now?
2 years in the ministry and 1 year outside of my
All
job.
right. So, with your experience, what would be the proudest moment that you've had as a teacher?
Okay, are you talking teaching-wise or
Teaching-wise.
interaction-wise?
Teaching-wise, I
Okay.
would say.
The proudest moment I've had with teaching is that I'm very, very lucky to be teaching a generation of kids who are very well exposed to social media and Western media in general, which makes it a lot easier to teach them language functions and vocabulary, grammar, and all of that, because they already see it in the everyday shows on social media and TikTok. And so it's easier for them to explain when you use real-life examples from said shows or from TikTok videos. So, for example, if you look at TikTok trends, مثلا, okay, this one's a bit difficult to explain. When you look, for example, words such as bestie, or for example, like the word bestie means best friend in TikTok.
Right.
So you would use examples of these words and to teach grammar. So it's easier to digest it into their brain.
So you're using words that they already know, they're already exposed to, so they can relate to and understand better. That's good. That's quite an interesting approach.
Yeah. And keep in mind, now most of kids nowadays, they like to watch shows on Netflix. So if I use examples from TV shows that are on Netflix, they would respond easier to the language.
Yeah, it'll be easier.
Yeah.
I wish more teachers thought that way.
Okay, so I would like you to look at the camera. So which one are we gonna look at?
That
This
one.
one right here, okay? And I need you to give an advice to the people about the language and how to learn it and the basics about it, in a short time.
Okay.
And no, I want people, I want to cut this later, put on my social media account. This is for you guys to learn, and this would be nice. So go ahead.
One of the best advice I can give for language learners: never quit, because keep in mind, language is always dynamic. It's like a river; it never stops, and it's not static. It's not like this. A pen is static because it's finished. It does not move anymore. So learning a language is like swimming to a river. The stronger you swim against the current, the stronger you will grasp it.
Wow, beautiful words.
All
Great
right,
way to put it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time for today. It was a lovely conversation, lovely getting to know you better. And I think we'll see more of you on KTV.
I hope so. Thank you guys for hosting me.
What a fun episode. You
Yeah.
know, it's one of those special episodes where we all connected on different levels and we had fun this episode.
But when he talked about aliens, I was like,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
just not talk about that. I'm alive. I don't want to know about aliens, but I'm aware there are
It's a
living
huge
creatures.
multiverse we live in, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it will take millions of years to understand what's actually out
We'll
there
see,
in the
we'll
universe.
see.
But let's just not talk about this.
Right.
This needs an entire episode with like someone who is from like, you know,
from NASA.
from NASA.
We'll get you
or,
someone from NASA next time.
I mean, could we?
Right?
I mean,
Anything is possible. But we're running out of time. Let's wrap it up here for the Untold. Tune in next time for another guest and more stories right here, same place, same time on KTV2. Till then, good night.
Good night.